back to Less Lethal Contingencies. Alan here. So we are going to continue to test the new 4 times 12 gram CO2 stock. I think that's what I'm calling it anyways. So yesterday I aired a experimental video on the experimental zone. Okay. The new stock that I'm running here with the 4 12 grams, right? So we got 2 of the Umarex 2 times 12 adapters, all right, for the air javelin. These are these one here don't have the quick puncture. These are a twist to puncture. And I have a alternate arms 3D printed stock, slip over stock for it as well. Okay. So we're gonna try this. I'm not using the on and off since it's a revolver, and I don't feel like they're likely to get jams. Of course, we could still have an issue with the bolt, but it's not too often I have a problem like that with this TR50. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna test it not using an on and off. This way it keeps it a little shorter profile for me, and it also is less restriction in the circuit, so I can see what kind of numbers I'm going to get shooting the combined 48 grams of CO2 on this Umarex, highly modified Umarex TR50. So this is double deleted. There's nothing in this. This is basically an expansion chamber now in the handle. You cannot run CO2. So really, one of the reasons why I wanted to design this CO2 stock was for this gun and also my torpedo, which have both been double deleted and no longer have a restrictor at all. It's been completely drilled out in here. Couldn't even put a restrictor in this gun if I wanted to now, because it's drilled wide open. So basically this is all an expansion chamber. Okay, so yeah, so I'm going to give it a try. I got 4 magazines of the 4 gram AR Tactical Joules, 50 caliber 4 gram Joules. And we'll see how many magazines we can get through. If we can get through all 4 with this. I know the test yesterday was a little lacking. We only got 16 shots, and the CO2 diminished pretty quick. I really feel like a lot of that had to do with some off-camera testing that I was doing. I was testing a modified on and off valve that I had put on the gun as well. And by doing so, I actually did release some gas during that test. Also, I had tested releasing it as well through the handle, I think, as how I was going to vent the gas, leftover gas. So it definitely, there was a little bit less CO2 volume than you would typically have if you weren't running those kind of tests that I was running off camera. So in addition to that, I did have that weird freeze up or maybe it was a freeze up, maybe it was a jam that after the second shot, well, the second shot I had that weird jam, right? I had to also vent off, turn the off valve off, on and off, and I had to vent out all that capacity air that I had in the gun. Plus I was running a rear ASA that's large. Well, it's the short one, but still it wasn't a stock configuration. So I feel like that may have skewed yesterday's test quite a bit. Really, I was designing this for the TR50 use, but this could be used in really anything where you're looking for a stock with CO2. You know, maybe this might be a nice build that you could, you know, for people that are looking for something to put up on the back of an Umarex rifle or something, you know, or M17 or something, you know. I don't sell anything on this channel. I don't do I don't provide any services either. Sorry. But I do try to, you know, if I come up with an idea like this, I do try to help you out as far as what materials I used and give you some sort of technical support if you need it. But no, I don't sell anything on the channel. So anyways, before I babble on any more about that, the reason why I brought it up is because I have had a couple people ask if I could build them one of, you know, other things. So don't have the time. Don't have the time to do that, but this is more just a hobby for me, and I would kind of like to design and invent new things. So That's what I'm doing. That's why I have an experimental zone. So, yeah. So continuing on the experimental zone today, I'm going to go ahead. Now, neither one of these have been punctured. Hopefully I don't get a leak here. I feel like I'm not going to have a leak there, but we'll see. The trick with these Umarex products like this, when you feed them through the rear ASA is, even if you're not using this, make sure that quick puncture is pushed in and so that it's closed. And yeah, so we're going to air it up on one of these. If I start to develop a leak, I'm not going to continue to air up the other adapter, right? Why waste 2 more CO2s? But I'm not expecting to get a leak, but then again, who is, right? So let me go ahead and air up the bottom first, and we'll see if we get any leaks. If everything's good, I'll air up the top one. Actually, you know what? I'm going to air up the top one first, the opposite order than I did yesterday. Yesterday, when I started filming, I already had this one aired up because I was using it to check for leaks. I'm going to flip the rotation and do the top first, just to make sure I get a really good puncture. All right, that was a good sound. No leaks. All right, the second one just aired. I could hear the second one. And when I say the second one, I mean the second one in here. There's 12 grams in each one of these adapters or cylinders. All right, let's close that there. So I heard that. I heard the bolt activate. I'm not hearing any leaks coming from anything, so that's a good sign. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to air up the bottom one. All right, already I can hear some gas releasing, contributing to the circuit. All right. That one's good and tight. Again, no leaks. So I think we're good to go here. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to slip on our alternate arms 3D printed stock here for the 2 times 12 gram adapters. And we're just going to slip this over the bottom one. Okay. Now you could reverse this whole setup naturally, and you could, if you wanted the stock to be higher, which for me, I designed it with the drop down because I actually wanted for me to have a better shot at looking at through the scope. So I think most of us would agree you want the stock sitting lower on your shoulder so that you can see your sights better. But if you did want to flip it around for any reason, naturally you could do that, right? You could flip this whole thing around. Clocking it to whatever ASA, unless you get lucky, you might have to throw some O-rings in there between this device and the ASA in order to clock it and get the stock. That's the only negative thing with these type of stocks versus just, maybe a stock with a HPA tank where you can spin it and you can put the stock however you want. That would be really the one drawback with this system, is that you need to figure out how to clock it unless you get lucky. And even if you get lucky on one marker, the next marker you try to put this on, if you want to put it on multiple markers, you might have to do the O-ring trick and, to try to get it clocked right. So that is what she looks like. We're all gassed up. Okay, I have the 8-inch sniper barrel on here, tuning barrel. And again, we're going to be shooting the 4 gram 50 caliber, 4 gram joules. And forget if this was really loud or not. I think it might have been, but let me see. Maybe I can get away without my ears. As long as my ears ain't ringing. All right, so I got 4 of these magazines. Each one holds 6 rounds. I got them all loaded up with the same ammunition. Again, this is the 4 gram joules. And these are a composite and steel hybrid, I guess you'd say. Let me check my cylinder mag and make sure I got the barrel goes up and down. It's going up and down, looks good. I got the proper tension. Again, this is what's important to know your gun, right? We got the laser on. All right, magazine 1, shot 1. Let's see what we get for feet per second. I'll just be calling these up. right, got this. Got it right here. All right. Magazine 1, shot 1, 4 gram joules. 4 times 12 gram CO2 stock. Shot 1. 516.2 feet per second. That was loud. My ears are borderline ringing. All right, that looks good. I think everything's still good in here. I want to make sure. What was that, 516 feet per second? That felt wicked powerful. It was loud. All right, that was shot 1. I'm not hearing any leaks, so let's proceed with shot number 2. Mag 1, shot 2. 501.3. Shot 3. 491.9 feet per second. Shot 4. 477.6. Shot 5. 460.6 feet per second. And it should be the last one, shot 6. 381.5 feet per second. 381.5. One thing I wish I had was a gauge on here, but I could easily introduce a gauge, but, well, I might make it longer, unless I tap and drill this, but this is stainless steel, and it is tough to drill through. I'd have to get some special drill bits, but maybe I could drill through there, drill it out at 1/8, and maybe put a small gauge on. If not, I could figure out how to get a gauge on here. It just, like I said, it may extend the stock back a little bit further, which without an on and off wouldn't be a big deal. But then if I have to put an on and off on it, now it's sticking it way farther back. So, but a gauge would be helpful. So I at least see where what I have for pressure, give me an idea how much air I have left. Or even one of those pop-up degassers, if I could figure out how to incorporate one of those in there as well. But that wouldn't be as useful as a gauge though. All right, so let's go with magazine number 2. Those are very powerful shots. Again, this is going to still be a CO2 hog because I got all this expansion inside this handle now. So I don't know, I mean, again, I'm being hopeful for 4 mags. I'm thinking a magazine for each of the 12 grams, 4 mags. I'm being hopeful, but at this point, if I get 3, I'll be happy with that too. Let's see. All right, so magazine number 2, shot 1. 459.2 feet per second, shot 2. Mag 2, shot 2. Ooh, big drop, 278.2 feet per second. I don't know what gives with that. I hope that's a one-off because that was a huge drop in feet per second. What am I sitting at now? Can't see on this one like you can the other one. I think that was shot 2, right? So let's calling it shot 3. Shot 3. 229.4 feet per second, and actually got an auto fire. So that was low pressure, and I got an auto fire. Could be a slug of CO2. Probably. I don't really have much screening or anything in here so that to prevent liquid CO2 from getting, the gun sucking up a slug. So it could be that. All right, we're going to go with, what was that, shot 4? We're going to go with shot 5. Oh, no, we're not. No, we're not going to go with shot 5 because the trigger is locked up, which I bet this is when I should have had an on and off. This is the reason why I put on and offs in. I jinxed myself probably by saying, it's a revolver. I can get by without an on and off. And look what happens, right? I bet you any money that bolt's stuck a certain way. And now I got to degas it to make this safe Because if I got a round, yeah, you can't even move that sucker. All right. All right. Three left out of mag 2. Yeah. Yeah. All right. That was a shitty test. Not happy with this. Not happy with this test. Good grief. Well, first couple shots were really powerful, though. I will say that. I'll update the feet per second in the video and stuff, but this experimental test was not very good. I ended up having a problem with the bolt. It looks like could have been caused it could have sucked up a slug of liquid CO2. I mean, that is a possibility. But yeah. But the two auto fires I got seemed to use up what remaining gas I had. That's nice and cold. Let me see. Punctured the top one first. I know I got good punctures on both of these, so I don't think it was an issue with that. Didn't have an on and off valve in the circuit, so that's ruled out. I know this was wide open though. I bet you I had a straight, you know. All you have to do, I mean, granted, there is a little valve in here though. So, I mean, it's not like it's going to come splashing out by tilting the gun. There is a valve in there, but I probably did get a slug of CO2 through. But that bolt was not moving. I mean, that trigger was not moving. The bolt was, I couldn't get the thing out. The bolt was like half in there. It's like it didn't retract fully after the last shot or something to that effect. Anyways, that is the end of this test. Yes, it is. Little disappointing. That's 2 disappointing tests, but this is actually more disappointing than the first test that I ran with this thing. All right. Well, that is all, folks. As Elmer Fudd would say, that's all, folks. Or is it the rabbit that says that? I forget. Anyways, thanks for watching. Peace out.